Well, hello to the Leadership Network viewing community. Thanks for joining us for the Nines. I'm Jim Sheppard. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm with Generis. Our time is short, so let's get right to it. My passion is generosity. More specifically, I have a real passion for generosity inside the kingdom. The kind of generosity that leads to funding of God-given vision of ministry. And moreover, the kind of generosity that leads to good utilization of those resources. So with that in mind, I'd like to break out a topic that I call fat thinking. It's not meant to describe anything other than a state of mind when money is plentiful, times are good, and we don't really have to think long and hard about our ministry projects. I want you to go back with me to a couple of years ago. Let's think back 2 years ago, fall of 2007. Times were good. There was plenty of money. The Dow Jones was almost 14,000. If you look back about 20 years, this represents the high point of about really what I call an unprecedented time of wealth accumulation, with a couple of pauses along the way, but really 20 years of wealth accumulation. The Dow started at 2,000, and in fall of 2007 it was around 14,000. The economy was good, lots of things were great. As a ministry leader, you could roll out just about any project and probably get it funded. So in that era, really, you don't have to be as discerning, you don't have to think long and hard, and that's the mindset that I call fat thinking. It's a prevailing mindset when there is plenty of money, and we don't have to vet things quite as carefully. Now, let's fast forward from that to a time about a year or so ago. That's when the slide really exacerbated. It had begun before then, but it began in earnest right around last September, October. Ran through the end of the year and even into the first of this year. For many of us, we had never seen anything like that, and we wondered when it might stop. In history, when economic times are difficult, our home values get threatened sometimes, our investment accounts get threatened. It's rare that both get threatened so severely. And that's exactly what happened to us a year ago. In fact, most of us were kind of taught when we were growing up that our nest egg would be in our home equity and it would be in our retirement account. We're okay if one of them gets threatened, but when both of them gets threatened, it really brings us to a point where we wonder and worry. Jesus knew about that. He taught extensively about that. He knew that we would worry about tomorrow and about being provided for tomorrow. And so what happens is, when we have both of those threatened, we begin to think, wow, I just wonder if I'm going to be able to provide for myself. And in that scarcity mentality that takes over, even churches and ministries begin to wonder if they can get their projects funded. Well, you know, I understand that, but let me assure you this. In most cases, there is plenty of money. It's just that in the lean environment, we have to be a lot more careful, have to be a lot clearer, have to be a lot more focused in asking for it and securing those funds. It's a good thing, actually. Fat thinking is it just allows us to maybe not put the right projects on the table or the highest priorities, and in the leaner environment, we're able to maybe vet some things a little bit more carefully. Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, said this in his 2008 Founders Letter, and I want to read it to you. He said, "Nonetheless, I'm optimistic about the future because I believe scarcity breeds clarity. It focuses minds, forcing people to think creatively and rise to the challenge. It's the reason that Toyota tries to carry zero funding. When you're operating without a safety net, you better operate correctly." So here's what we're saying, is that we have to be more discerning if we're going to find the funding. Many times it's hard to say no to what seems like a great ministry idea or a project or initiative, and yet at the end of the day it doesn't fit into the top priorities of the church or the ministry organization. So in a scarcity environment for us, here's what happens. It clarifies everything. You heard Sergey Brin say that in his quote there. Scarcity clarifies. It clarifies everything for us. Our identity, our thinking, our priorities. It makes us realize what really are the most important things that need to be done, and maybe some of the things that need to be set on the back burner. It may be a time of challenge as we face the lean environment, but it's also a time of clarification, and this can be a good thing for us. It can be a very good thing for us. You see, the time will come again when money is plentiful. I don't know when that is, but the time will come again. And when it does come, we need to be positioned with good thinking and good habits and good patterns so that we will know how to steward the plentiful money supply that does come in. And a scarce environment can teach us that. Susan Cram, writing in the April 30th Harvard Business Review, said it this way. She said, "With the cash crunch, focus is coming back in style. A lot of people are hoping for a future, both professionally and personally," listen to this, "that will be pared down, more natural, more stable, less full of enerving overstimulation. There are many who believe that these bad times will bring a kind of, listen, a satisfying scarcity that companies and yes, even families will start focusing on what's most important by stripping the nice but not necessary out of their daily existence. I like that. Stripping the nice but not necessary. One leader said it this way. He said the current lean environment allows us to strip some things out that we might ordinarily say yes to. Another leader says the current lean environment allows us to say no to some things that are proposed as maybe the right thing but in the wrong way. So here's the lesson for us. Let's use this time of challenge as an opportunity to clarify what's really important for our ministry organizations, for our churches. Let this be a time of focus that would open up for you and for your leaders a new Holy Spirit-driven perspective that will bring a focus that you had never had before on what are really the most important things. Maybe even to discontinue some things so that you could reallocate those resources over to some other things that really are your highest priorities. And with that in mind, what I'd like to propose is a 3-point litmus test for prioritizing. There are other factors that you're going to want to consider, but let me give you 3 just to start it off. Urgent, compelling, aligned. First of all, anything that you propose, a program, a project, a ministry initiative, it needs to have an urgency to it. In other words, your people need to be able to see sort of if we don't do this, there's a price to be paid. There would be a delay in momentum. There would be something that would cause us a setback. And that causes us to think urgently about it. After we go to urgency, then we think about compelling. This is what I call the wow factor. When people don't have as much money as perhaps they used to, one of the things they want to see is a really, wow, I really want to be a part of that. I see what my church is doing. I see what my ministry organization is trying to do. And I really want to be a part of that move of God's hand. And then lastly, it needs to be aligned. See, church people and ministry people are smart. They know when you've put something on the table it doesn't fit. And so anything that you propose needs to be vibrantly connected to your mission and your vision of ministry. So use that 3-point litmus test as kind of a starting point. Make sure it's urgent, make sure it's compelling, and make sure that it's aligned with everything else that you do. And lastly, here's what I'd say to you. Let's consider Luke 14:28. The gospel writer says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't he first sit down and compute the cost or figure the cost so that he can be sure that he can complete it? Here's my point in that. Many times people will say to you that planning and strategy really are not, they're mutually exclusive of your faith in the voice of God. I'd submit to you that the writer of Luke 14:28 was saying that they go hand in hand. So planning and strategy, also listen to, lean on your faith, listen to the voice of God as you move forward, and those will give you good guidance and direction. They're not mutually exclusive, they walk hand in hand. I hope this time has been helpful for you. I really, really enjoyed spending a few minutes with you. Go rock your world, make a difference for Christ's sake. God bless you.